There's no state on the planet that is more ruthless, more murderous than the Israelis.
What they are doing to the world is absolutely unforgivable.
Where you find oppressed people, sooner or later they rise up against the oppressor.
Tell the truth. Stand up for freedom. Do the work of liberation. Because until Palestine is free, then not one single one of us in this room is free. Free Palestine from the river to the motherfucking sea.
אבל אנחנו הולכים למסלול התנגשות עם הממשל האמריקאי. ארצות הברית זה לא מקשה אחת, זה לא מקשה אחת. יש את הסנאט, יש את הקונגרס, יש את הכוח היהודי שהוא עצום, יותר חזק משהיה אי פעם. יש דעת קהל, יש לנו כוחות כבירים בדעת הקהל שמתנגדים למדיניות הזאת, גדולי הפרשנים. אמריקה לא תכפה לנו דבר.
One thing, unlike America, Israel seems to be able to fight wars very quickly. What is your secret? Because we don't seem to have the hang of that.
The secret is that we have America.
To suggest, as you're doing here tonight, that they control our Congress, that, quote, they are influencing and the sole control of influencing of our domestic policy is an absurdity. It sounds like you are a kook.
Sean, I'm not suggesting it. I'm telling it. Yes, I believe they manifest a great power over America. Let me also say, in the last 4 years, there are 2 separate incidents of AIPAC spying on America. We even conducted a search warrant on AIPAC headquarters. Now, I don't like what's going on here. All I'm telling you is, I'm concerned about America. You and I might disagree. I'm not an anti-Semite.
As global anti-Semitism reaches levels unseen since World War II, it is imperative that the international community works to curb the proliferation of hate speech, particularly regarding anti-Semitism. To achieve this, there must be a universal understanding of what constitutes anti-Semitism. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, the rapid development of technology has enabled the spread of information more widely than ever before. However, this comes with risks. Social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and others have become hotbeds for the dissemination of blatantly anti-Semitic content by some users seeking to delegitimize the state of Israel. Users seeking to
delegitimize the state of Israel.
هلا كيف حالكم؟ شو اخباركم؟ انا جنة عملت موسيقى وايد حلوة شو وحبيت اوريكم في عندي لوك مكان.
By adopting IHRA's definition of anti-Semitism, the international community can develop a better understanding of what constitutes anti-Semitism and effectively combat its dangerous effects on Jewish communities.
Voice of criticism we don't often hear in the United States. Often when there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money. And the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they're strong in this country. As you know, they have power, and it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitic and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people, and that justify everything we do to the Palestinians.
My name is Chris Hedges. I'm the former Pulitzer Prize-winning Middle East bureau chief for the New York Times. I spent 7 years covering the Middle East, including Gaza and the West Bank. I'm an Arabic speaker. During my time in the Middle East, I was based first in Jerusalem and later in Cairo. I'm also the author of 16 books and taught at Columbia, New York University, Princeton, and Rutgers. I've been at Princeton. I strongly oppose this bill, A3558, because it expands anti-Semitism's definition to include most anti-Zionist expressions for the purpose of civil rights law. This is a dangerous assault on free speech by seeking to criminalize legitimate criticism of Israeli policy. The Trump administration's campaign to ostensibly root out anti-Semitism on college campuses is clearly a trope to shut down free speech, deport non-citizens, even if they are here legally. This bill falsely collapses ethnicity with a political state. And let's be clear, the brunt repression on college campuses was directed against students and faculty who opposed the genocide in Gaza, 3,000 of whom were arrested and hundreds of whom were censored, suspended, or expelled. Many of these students are Jewish. What about their rights? What about their constitutional protections? Omer Bartov is professor of Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Brown University. He stated in an article on July 15th in the New York Times that his, quote, inescapable conclusion has become that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. As someone who speaks and writes frequently about the conflict, I fear that any criticism I make of the Israeli government, although grounded in my long experience in the region, will make me a target if this measure is adopted.
The American people are getting about fed up with this government.
One last shot at this. Will you back down from, quote, they are controlling much, meaning the Israelis, they are controlling much of our foreign policy. Will you back off that statement?
No, I don't.
All right, then we disagree. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that. I am peace.
A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for a man who wants to end wars, not start them.
We do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance.
They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. And that's what happened.
God bless Israel. All right. We should move all our stuff to Israel. Thank you.
We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel, and bring home Israelis, and make sure we stand by our #1 ally in Israel.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. Isn't it pathetic?
I've been a recovering neocon for 6 years now. Like, the foolishness with which we ricocheted around the world, intervening, think it was in our best interest, when really we just overturned the table and created something worse in almost every single scenario, has led to almost, I mean, the hubris of the Pentagon is that they want to now tell other countries how to do counterinsurgency based on what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, are you kidding me? So you really have learned nothing. Okay, nothing. So yeah, you're right. The trust there that our political leaders or our generals would have our best interests in mind is totally broken. It's totally broken.
Speeding towards an all-out war with Iran would make the wars that we've seen in Iraq and in Afghanistan look like a picnic. It will be far more costly in lives, and American taxpayer dollars, and all towards accomplishing what goal?
If we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action.
The White House justified the U.S.-Israel war on Iran with this March 2026 list of 44 alleged Iranian attacks. killing 992 Americans. Unsourced. This list was copied from an article by the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Author, ex-AIPAC staff. Side by side, the documents match almost word for word, with White House edits only strengthening claims like changing deemed responsible to a statement of direct blame.
I gave them Golan Heights. I gave them the Abraham Accords. I recognized the capital of Israel and opened the embassy in Jerusalem. Gave them billions and billions of dollars. I was the best friend Israel ever had.
Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel.
It is, without any question, our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself.
It is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys.
I have my entire career and life supported Israel. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself.
If you want to eliminate Israel, we will throw you out of our country so rapidly your head will spin. A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war.
Tonight, this new video, geolocated and verified by NBC News, shows what experts say is a U.S. Tomahawk missile over the skies of Manab, Iran. Adding evidence, the experts say, that an American missile likely hit the Shajre Taibeh Elementary School during the first hours of U.S.-Israeli operations on February 28th. Iranian officials say the airstrikes, which also hit a compound once home to a military base, killed more than 170 people, mostly children.
And at the end of the day, I think that if there are people in Iran who now, given everything that's happened, are willing to move in a different direction for their country, that would be great. Imagine in Iran that instead of spending their wealth, billions of dollars supporting terrorists or weapons, had spent that money helping the people of Iran, you'd have a much different country. So we are always hopeful that that would exist over there.
As far as $200 billion, I think that number could move, obviously. It takes money to kill bad guys.
Because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it, too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up, but it's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection. Look at the way they attacked unexpectedly all of those countries surrounding them. It was not supposed to be. Nobody was even thinking about it. But they wanted to take over the Middle East, and they wanted to knock out Israel permanently. Nobody was even thinking about it.
Because if the issue is posed in a way in which they have to, in effect, abjectly capitulate, then I think a great many of them will say no. This is a country of 80 million people. And they know that while we can inflict enormous damage on them, they can hurt us a lot. Charlie, we have been now in 2 10-year-long wars. We have wasted an enormous amount of financial wealth, not to speak of lives. Our position in the world has deteriorated. Can you imagine what the consequences would be for us if the conflict in Afghanistan expanded because of the Iranians, if Iraq was massively destabilized, if Bahrain was set on fire, if the North eastern oil fields in Saudi Arabia were attacked.
Do they have the capacity to ignite all of that?
To ignite, yes. To prevail, no. But in the meantime, the consequences, the costs, would be cumulative.
And oil prices would go through the roof.
Yes, and the global economy will be affected. So we're playing with fire here.
Being influenced by the IAEA or by another government, Israel in this case, saying like, oh no, even though you conducted Midnight Hammer and your 18 intelligence agencies say that their nuclear capability is gone, they're still somehow digging out from the rubble, and they're going to be able to assemble 10 bombs in 2 weeks. Again, sorry, I'm going with with what the director of national intelligence said, and she's saying that based on the research and the analysis and the rigorous debate of 18 intelligence agencies.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
How close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having one.
בכל העניינים. בזמן שישראל לאחרונה נמצאו כמה עניינים. מה שרואה עוד, וגם משהו שעדיין משאיר ליבו. אז הייתה משהו במה ידיעתו. עושים. הכנראה שהיא מספיק, שהיום כבר כמה שעות בדין ועדיין ליבו. אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש להשתדל גם היום.
Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Rabbi Schneerson, there were some Jews who believed that he was and is the Messiah. So rejecting Christ, but believing that that rabbi was his Messiah. Now, you may remember in the news recently, there was this radicalized faction of the Lubavitch Orthodox community in Brooklyn that were digging tunnels in Brooklyn and hurling benches at police officers. Well, and by the way, this is per the Times of Israel, that faction of individuals are followers of Rabbi Schneerson. It becomes important to understand, what did Rabbi Schneerson preach? Well, he preached Jewish supremacism, the hatred of all non-Jews. And you don't have to take my word for it, because if I said it, they would say that's anti-Semitism. You should instead take the word of the two Jewish professors who translated his work. Those authors' names were Israel Shahak and Norton Mezvinsky, and their book was entitled Jewish Fundamentalism in Israel. From that book, we learned that Shmuly's mentor, Schneerson, describes the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. And he says, quote, "Thus we do not have a case of profound change in which a person is merely on a superior level. The body of a Jewish person is of totally different quality from the body of all nations of the world." And he talks about the substance of the Jewish body versus the substance of non-Jews, saying that the inner quality, quote, is so different and so great that the body should be considered completely different species. So that is a belief, and you can go through his speeches and you will see that he continually talks about how non-Jews should be treated, and that, again, we are a different species. This is what Rabbi Shmuly believes in. We have to come to terms with the fact that there are Jewish radicals, and it's incumbent upon the Jewish community to call them out. And I think the entire world is now paying attention and wondering, what is going on in Israel? What is this government? Is this a radical fringe government? And many people are concluding that the answer to that question is yes.
It is not Israel that creates the Jewish people, for it is only the Torah that creates our people. The Jewish people are without the country for the past 2,000 years. We are not dependent on modern Israel for our Jewish identity.
לציונים אין שום קשר אלינו. אנחנו מתנגדים לכל הכיבוש הציוני בכל אדמות פלסטין. כמובן שלפי התורה אסור, כל מה שהציונים עושים, אסור בכלל לא לפלוש לשטחים של השכנים, לא עזה ולא לבנון, ולא בכלל להחזיק את המדינה הציונית.
They misuse this very same religion they refuse to follow, and they misuse it to justify crimes which are forbidden in this very same religion, because killing and stealing, oppressing an entire people, all of this is forbidden in Judaism. It's when you conflate Judaism and Zionism, you conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, you're making a statement as if all Jews support all what's going on and as if all Jews are accountable. Anti-Zionism has nothing to do with anti-Semitism because Judaism and Zionism are not the same. Judaism is a religion, Zionism is a political movement, should never be conflated.
The view of Palestinians is simple. Well, the Europeans treated the Jews badly, culminating in the Holocaust, and they gave them our land as compensation. Of course, we say it's our land. The Torah says it, but they don't believe in the Torah. So, that's the reason there is not peace. They invent other reasons, but they do not believe in a Jewish state, and that is why we in America must stand strong with Israel through thick and thin. We must, because that is the reason, not any of these other false shibboleths, why there is not peace in the Middle East. Too many people don't understand that here in America.
People say to me, why don't you explain to the Jews in the United States what is exactly behind your thinking? I explain. But I'm laughing because the right word for it, you have to brainwash all the time. You have to say, to explain it, to live it, to cope with it. My husband says to me, why do you speak to your children all the time about Zionism, pioneers in Judea and Samaria, settling and settling? And all my family are settlers here. Because this is the only way to continue Zionism. I want to have for the Jewish nation the promised land from the Bible. From the Prat,
yes,
to the Nile. And I'm sure it will be.
And what about southern Lebanon?
If it is part of it, all of it. Even parts of Syria, part of Iraq, part of Iran. It's huge.
You think you have any way of convincing people that that would be a good idea?
I convince many. Many people believe in it. I don't see anything anything extreme in my approach. It's the basic Jewish approach.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
The president wants to boost military spending by more than $1 trillion while proposing slashing domestic programs here at home. And John Hopperstead in the newsroom with more on what would be a historic increase. John, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Yeah, this would be $1.5 trillion for defense, and that would be the highest level of military spending in modern history. As we take a live look at the Capitol this morning, we expect to hear response from some lawmakers, many of whom will be shocked at this hefty price. The president has signaled that the military, though, is his priority, especially with the ongoing conflict in Iran. But it's a big ask with the country running nearly $2 trillion annual deficits and the debt heading past $39 trillion. So then there is concern about what kind of programs here at home could be cut. Here's a look at some of them in this proposed budget. $768 million to refugee resettlement programs, $5 billion to National Institutes of Health, which many say perform critical medical research in this country. The administration proposed $20 billion in cuts to the NIH last year, but Congress rejected it, and $356 million to Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response. This helps the country prepare for public health emergencies and then also respond to them, but that would be slashed in this budget proposal.
Look, Israel is the best ally that we have. Israel's the only country that is out there that doesn't ask us to fight their wars for them.
First off, let me go ahead and share my full screen here so you guys can see this. Here's Operation Epic Fury website, the State Department website on Operation Epic Fury. And the first thing that they released when it came to the justification for this war, the United States is engaged in this conflict at the request of and in the collective self-defense of its Israeli ally.
The
Israelis and the Americans are running around the world assassinating leaders. This was not something that the United States engaged in large part, or certainly in an overt way in the past. And here we are. And furthermore, there's the Gaza genocide, right? The Israelis, here's an apartheid state executing a genocide in Gaza, and we're complicitous in that genocide. If there were Nuremberg trials, right, where the Israelis and the Americans were brought before the court, President Trump, along with President Netanyahu and many of their advisors, would be hanged. Those German leaders were accused of launching a war of aggression. It bears remarkable resemblance to what we and the Israelis have now twice done against Iran.